officially requested and been granted access to interview two more head coaching candidates, Chris Quinn from the Miami Heat and Johnnie Bryant from the New York Knicks. They've already previously been granted interview access with James Borrego and Kenny Atkinson. And Earl, I want to start with you because I know Chris Quinn is currently your top choice to be the Cavs' next head coach. He is officially interviewing for the job. In your opinion, what makes Quinn the right guy for the job, and what would he bring to this Cleveland organization?
The reason why I think
if he is the hire?
I'm sorry, Mike. The reason why I think Chris Quinn is the absolute 100% correct choice to be the Cleveland Cavaliers' next head coach is because he is a specialty in player development. He comes from a championship system. He has experience around superstar players. He is a former player in the NBA. What does most players that play a professional sport love in a coach? Somebody that they can relate to that's been on, say, a gridiron, right? This dude is Erik Spoelstra's top assistant. 10 years with Erik Spoelstra. He played for Miami, played for Spo, played for Pat Riley. This is a dude that's been around Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh. He has a system. He comes from a championship system. He knows, he's one of the key guys when it comes to player development. He's somebody that's gotten a ringing endorsement from everybody inside that organization. And I think that if the Cleveland Cavaliers continue with the trend that we've seen when they hire head coaches, Mike Brown was the first-time head coach, and he coached LeBron. So don't tell me that Chris Quinn, as a first-time head coach, is not good enough to coach Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and whoever else is on his team. I think this dude is the right hire. I think that he's somebody that can galvanize the troops. I think he's somebody that impact change. I think he's everything that you look for in a coach. He's audible ready. He knows how to communicate. He's honest. He has everything that you're looking for. I think Chris Quinn is the hire.
There's one thing missing. Who's his agent?
I'm not sure.
Who is the agency representing the two candidates who have already been granted permission to interview with the Cavaliers?
CAA.
Who is the agency that represents Donovan Mitchell?
CAA.
So you're telling me there's a connection. I need to know this. And this is what the Cavs need to know. And this, by the way, is my theory as to why this coaching search is going to go into the summer. What does Donovan Mitchell think of him? That's it. Because you're right. If you're looking at the blind resumes of all three, even though he doesn't have NBA head coaching experience, he is a seed from the Pat Riley and Erik Spoelstra tree.
Mm-hmm.
The soil here is fertile. Look at the roster. The soil is fertile. You give me a seed that came from the Riley and Spoelstra tree, the lineage is pretty good. He's done a great job, and you're right. Everybody that I've reached out to says, oh, this guy's if not in Cleveland, somewhere. And you know what scares me about that? He could be the next Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have hired Kyle Shanahan as our head coach. And we've had to watch him go implement his genius somewhere else. And I don't want that to happen with Chris Quinn. But I'm very worried about the CAA, the lack of a CAA connection. Now, I don't know. Maybe he is represented by CAA. The fact that I haven't heard that or been able to find that out tells me he's probably not.
So I like, first of all, let me just say, I like him too. I like Chris Quinn. I like his resume. I like the fact that he has some sort of offense. He comes from a structured type team. But when you look at when you're going to hire a head coach after you let JB Bickerstaff go, right? One of the main things that we talk about is timing. Are you at the point of your career where it matches what the Cavs organization is at, right? You look at Ty Lue. Ty Lue didn't have any head coaching experience. However, his time and in where he was at in his life matched where the Cavs were at the time, and they were ready for that type of voice. My thing is, we got with the JB Bickerstaff, and we've heard rumblings of people saying JB had to go. They didn't like certain things, and certain times you may need a different voice, and that different voice you might not want that voice to be the same similar voice as the one that you kind of have. Like for me, I want a veteran. I want somebody who knows how to talk to these dudes, a veteran that has done it before, and a veteran who can come into that locker room and say, nah, Donovan, we running it this way. and him actually respect him. Because and I'm not saying that they're going to disrespect Chris Quinn, but for me, it's Kenny Atkinson. That's my number one choice. I've seen him take a team that was horrible and terrible, that had nobody, and went and they made the playoffs. I've also seen him, go out in Golden State. And if you want to talk about running the offense in the system, I want you to run the Golden State one. I want you to be able to be a great defensive team. I want to be a great team in general, and I want to know how to motivate superstars.
Sure.
That's the thing I want to see. Now, Chris Quinn, I'm going to just say this. I wouldn't be mad if they got him, but for me, I think it's the right place and the right time for Kenny Atkinson, and I think he would be able to take this team to the next level.
You know what? Atkinson, you make a lot of great points, and I am concerned about first-time coach. Mm-hmm. I am. I just think that this is, I don't know if this is the roster you want to cut your teeth with,
right?
But he has been Spoelstra's right-hand man when Spo has had great rosters and won championships, and not so great rosters and made it to the finals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he, if you truly absorb as a student in your environment, he's learned how to handle a lot of those landmines. When you coach LeBron and D-Wade, you got landmines. Mm-hmm. And then he also somehow was there when they motivated an 8 to beat the 1. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. I do like the fact that Atkinson has experience. I do think it's just going to come down to, and if I had a little bracelet, and I could put some initials on it, it would say WWDD. What would Donovan do? And that's who's going to hire. That's I think he didn't click with JB. JB was out.
So I'm not as high on Kenny Atkinson as other people, but I've done my homework and my research, and I know that since he left Brooklyn as their head coach, he's been an understudy of Ty Lue. He's been an understudy of Mike D'Antoni. He spent a lot of time with Steve Kerr. And I guess the interesting nugget that you did point to is, when you talk about a system, Steve Kerr spent the majority of his playing career playing for either Phil Jackson or Pop. Okay?
With Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And what Steve Kerr did in Golden State was take a portion of the triangle offense, implement it in Golden State, and went on to win 4 championships with it. Now, if Kenny Atkinson has taken time as an understudy to Steve Kerr and has learned a lot since his failed head coaching experience, cool. But the only thing that bothers me with him is he didn't mesh well with superstars. Now, you can say whatever you want to say about Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. We all know they're unique individuals, or whatever was going on at said time.
Well, did he coach those guys? I don't think he ever coached those guys.
He did. He got there.
And they wanted him out.
They came. He was the coach before they got there. They got there and immediately didn't like him.
But did he actually coach games with those guys,
Yes.
or was he gone before the season started?
99% sure he got fired in their first season.
Okay.
So
then I misremembered it. I thought he was fired before he ever got a chance to coach those.
So that part of it worries me.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But if Donovan it's all going to come down to, like you said, whoever Donovan likes the most.
Yeah, I think so. But we got to lean on Mike here, because Mike has some inside channels from Miami, and I'm sure that you've done your research and you've investigated what your pals think about Quinn.
Yeah, Atkinson did get fired 60 games into that season.
So that was almost a full season. What was his record with those two?
28-34, but that was the year Durant didn't play. He was coming back from the torn Achilles, so it was just Kyrie.
So he just had.
So
Kyrie.
he actually never coached them together. So I guess you're right in that sense. But he did coach Kyrie. If you're talking about what would Donovan do, Johnnie Bryant, the guy we haven't mentioned yet, is Donovan's guy. For the record, they work together in Utah. Johnnie Bryant is a player development guru who was in Utah with Donovan. That's why they got super close. He's now with the New York Knicks. He's Thibodeau's top assistant. He's their associate head coach, and he's another guy who's quickly rising the ranks.
Do you think he's the choice? Just because he's Donovan?
I think if it was purely what does Donovan want, which it may come down to, I know he's particularly close with Donovan, has had a really good
relationship
with
So if it's a tie, then
with
it's
Donovan.
Johnny.
It could be Johnny. He's highly regarded. It's not just a Donovan connection. He's a highly regarded assistant.
Okay.
I don't know anyone who knows him or anything like that, so I have nothing on him. But I did talk to a few guys who know Chris Quinn very well this weekend, and they both said essentially the same thing. He's the perfect mix of player empathy analytics and understanding of modern day basketball, which kind of comes into what you're looking for in not a figurehead, but in a head coach, a guy who's been in their position, can understand the grind of, hey, we're playing a back-to-back 3 and 4. How much can you digest in a 2-hour game planning period when we're coming off a back-to-back? You're going to sleep on the plane, we have shoot around, and then we're playing again. How much can you actually digest in that sense? But he's been with Spo for a decade. He's got the analytics background in terms of what stats matter, what stats don't matter, what do we need to look at, what don't we need to look at, which is just as important as knowing what to look at.
Point.
And also, he's been sitting right next to Spo, drawing up out-of-bounds plays and learning the kind of X's and O's, ins and outs of that aspect of coaching. And they both said whether or not this is a job for him, whether or not it's another job down the road, when he gets his chance, they're both confident he's going to be a really good head coach. And I thought just the fact they both said his understanding of players and obviously he played for 10 years. His ability, or not 10 years, but he played in the NBA for a while. His ability to connect with them but also have the coaching aspect is a unique blend. And he reminds me a lot of Stephen Vogt in that sense, where he was a bottom of the roster, scrapped guy, had to fight his way just to stay on rosters, understands the ins and outs of what it takes to win, and understands what it's like to be on the bottom of the roster, not a top guy. And you've seen the success Stephen Vogt's having in Cleveland with the Guardians. It's not exactly apples to apples, but catcher and point guard are the baseball and basketball equivalent. Never a starter. Vogt, I know he had the one All-Star year, but was never, a great historic perennial All-Star player catcher. I think there's more similarities in those two than
what do you make of my theory that they're going to drag this out as long as they can? When is Donovan going to talk about this contract?
He can't do anything till July.
Okay, is it 11th? What is the date? 7th?
2nd or somewhere early July.
Yeah,
early July.
I think I remember when LeBron.
He can't do anything till the final. It depends on when the finals ends.
Well, it's definitely after the finals.
Yeah, but then there's a certain time period from
10
so
days?
If it's a 5-game. It's a roving window, I believe.
Yeah, they don't want to trounce on the thunder.
Let me push back a little bit though. Something don't sit right in my soul a little bit.
With Quinn?
Nah. Listen, Donovan's gonna get some say in this. But I need somebody to come in that's going to hold people accountable, too. Like, I know you want your guys in here, but I need somebody to be like, hey, that ain't what we doing right now.
So you don't think it's smart to give the keys to the castle to a guy that may or may not be here long term?
Listen, I want a partner. I want somebody that's going to partner with me in the accountability piece.
Okay.
We're gonna get a guy in here that you can vibe with and you can play with. But by no stretch of the imagination are we just bringing in anybody that you just happen to like. I got to make a decision to get not only the best out of you, but we got to decide what's up with Evan Mobley. We got to figure out what's going on with Jerry Allen. Is Darius Garland going to still be on this roster? What are we going to do about all of these things play a role in not just a small little shakeup. This is a big thing.
Like, it's bigger than Donovan.
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
So if it's bigger than Donovan, guess what all three of us got in common? We born in Ohio, right? Chris Quinn, he from Dublin, Ohio.
Right.
I would only assume he grew up as a Cavs fan. We just got finished talking about unwritten intangibles.
Likely.
You would assume something like this, an opportunity like this, will mean a little bit more to him. And basically what I'm saying, for a guy like Chris Quinn, it is bigger than Donovan. This potentially is one of my childhood favorite teams that I get the opportunity to coach and lead to a championship. So in that sense of what you're saying, the accountability piece might be different because in his heart, it hits different coaching the Cavs for Chris Quinn than it does anybody else.
Well, you also have to take it. Some people you may want. Some people's demeanors is just different, right? I could want to do a certain thing, but there's a certain mix of personalities where, if you got a dude that is very headstrong and they want to do it their way, are you a coach that's adaptable? And the problem I had with JB, and I think the reason he lost his team, is because you hear people say, "Nah, we ain't riding with that." He was saying, like, when you get to games and you lose 20-point leads, or you're doing certain things, and you get in the press conferences and you say, "Well, I think we fought hard, and there were some things we just missed shots," and that type of stuff, you got to be willing to say. Listen, Ty Lue used to say, "Hey guys, remember this?" Ty Lue said, "We got to get guys in shape." When Ty Lue took over from David Black, Ty Lue came in and said, "We're going to have to run because we play too slow. We got guys out here running pick and roll. We need to run." more. In the first 2 weeks, he said guys need to get in shape.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes things like that. And I don't know if a first-year coach could do it. Now, trust me, Spo has always been like that. But he also had the backing of Pat Riley.
He did.
When
He doesn't need it anymore, though.
he don't need it no more.
He's got cachet on his own.
But Pat told him, Pat Riley has to say, hey, listen, y'all can say whatever you want. Y'all not getting rid of Spoelstra. I'm backing you. Is Dan Gilbert willing to do that with a rookie coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, you make great points. And one of the things that I'm curious of, and Chris Fedor talked about this on Friday when he was a guest, and if you didn't watch Friday's show, go back and rewatch, click on Friday's show and watch the Chris segment, because he laid it out beautifully. He said, are we really sure that Donovan has the hammer here? You know, it's not like he's going to tank if this guy wants to win. Donovan wants to win. He can ask to be traded all he wants to. He can't control where he's traded. In fact, you don't have to trade him.
I like that scheme.
And I liked what Chris was saying. It wasn't Chris's theory. He was just throwing out points of evidence that would lead one to believe that this is not necessarily always a player-driven league. So to me, I think JB lost his job April 4th. I think that was the date. I can't remember. When they blew the 25-point second half lead in Los Angeles to the Clippers. It was it. I watched the second half, and I literally said, you got to fire him. You've got to fire him. Paul George went off. He never changed anything that he was doing. It was like he just kept saying, guys, come on, let's run out the clock. Let's run out the clock. And one possession after another, they were empty on the offensive side, and they were giving up huge buckets on that. And next thing you know, a 25-point lead is gone, and they lose the game. And I think that day, the decision was made, he's not it.
However they go about this, and I hear you, G, because it sounds like you really skeptical of a first-time head coach. Whether if it's a first-time head coach or somebody with previous experience, I think as long as Kobe Altman really identify what a coach is and make that the basis of his search, we'll be cool. And that's something that we've learned. You've been in management. What is a coach, right? Somebody that communicates, right? Somebody that's an overlearner, right? Somebody that's audible ready. You talk
motivator.
About, right? Not being able to make adjustments, right? You talk about somebody that involves community. It's not always about him. He is involving people on the staff. He talks about somebody that's honest, somebody that's a motivator, somebody that listens well. And so if you can check off all these boxes when you go hire whoever it is that you're going to hire and not make this all about Donovan Mitchell, I think everybody will be satisfied with that. The key is just identifying the right guy. The only thing I'm saying is when it comes to a first-time head coach, we forget that Mike Brown was a first-time head coach with LeBron James.
Right, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you can hire a first-time coach with LeBron James, then have faith in what you did before, man. Do your due diligence and go get the right guy.
I understand why G wants to go that route, but G, name the best three coaches in your mind in NBA history.
This is a tough one.
Phil Jackson?
You say Red Auerbach. You
well,
can
if
say
you want to go back into that day, you absolutely can.
Pop is right now to me the top.
Kerr,
right now the top.
Jackson.
Top three coaches is probably, I think Tibbs is there right now. I think Pop is historically a great coach. I think Pat Riley was a great coach. I think Steve Kerr is great. Spo is there.
What about Phil Jackson?
Phil Jackson, obviously.
Do you know what all of those guys have in common? They were all first-time head coaches at one point.
Yeah, you got to cut your teeth somewhere.
And now there's been a long list of guys that are first-time, one-time.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You don't want to fall into that trap. But I think if they do this the right way, and I'm glad that Kobe said, it happens when it happens. I'm glad there's no time frame. There doesn't need to be. What's going to happen between now and, say, the end of July that it's imperative that we have our coach here? You'd like to have him sooner than later, but you got to know what Donovan's doing. And I think because that second domino in their offseason is still up and we don't know which way it's going to fall, we can't start rebuilding and recreating and trading Darius and trading Jarrett Allen and hiring a coach, and then Donovan says, you know what, guys, I think I'm out of here.
It's the most pivotal summer, almost, I would say, more even than since the return of LeBron. Like, it's the most, because you got to think about it like this. You don't know what Donovan's going to do. So you got to have multiple plans. What if Donovan don't want to be here? Well, then that changes everything about Darius and Mobley.
Right.
The coach. If you take the coach and you get the wrong coach, then you're still going to mess up because you still got to develop. So there's a lot of different things. And then on top of that, you still need to figure out what is your plan of action for free agents.
Sure.
And you still got the draft.
But you know what's crazy is that Donovan, I don't want to say he's holding the organization hostage because he's got his own time frame for his decision.
Right.
But we always hear Donovan's a team guy. He wants to win. If you're a team guy, you want to win, and you want to stay here, which he has been on record as saying, do everybody a favor and get this extension done sooner than later. Because if you start moving pieces that today look like they're not critical pieces, Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland, and then you lose Donovan Mitchell, and now you've lost all three,
I'll just say this because I know we got to move on. Call me crazy. I think we're the ones that don't know. I think unofficially, it's a lot that has to be done. But I think off the record, I think Donovan Mitchell had the right conversations with the right people.
Because they seem to think
I think
that he's leaning
behind
to stay.
closed doors, I think everything is taken care of. And this is why I feel this way. If all this ties back to Donovan Mitchell, if the JB Bickerstaff part, right? If Donovan truly wanted JB here, JB is still be here.
I agree.
Okay, so that should let you know everything that you need to know. I truly believe behind closed doors, Kobe Altman knows exactly what's going on, and he's just taking his time with the head coaching search. He's already said the search has no impact on how we reconstruct this roster. I think the Cavs already know more than what we know in the media.
Yeah,
That's
you know
I'm
what?
saying.
I hope you're right, and I think you're right.
Yeah, I think they know more than we already know more.
Because Kobe seemed to be comfortable in his last
We're
news
talking
conference
all in
that he stayed.
95% absolutes. Every time we have these conversations since the season ended, we don't talk as a panel, as a media in Cleveland, as a bunch that believes that Donovan Mitchell is walking out this door.
No, the prevailing wind is that he's staying, and I hope that's the case. Go ahead, Mike.
We're going to do a quick ad read. We're going to bring in our